back once again here for more. Now I was thinking about picking up reading where we left off on this riveting judgment on the Hansen v. Faruqi appeal, where Faruqi won, but it's not in my brain tank at the moment. Instead, I think we're going to hate watch some news and videos. And oh boy, here we go. Woo! Where to begin? There was a couple I was thinking about. Obviously, we've got our old mate Isaac. And we also have our friend over at the Punter Politics. So, let's not get it twisted. We need to remember, we need to channel our inner Wayne Swan. We need to remember that we are, in fact, social democrats of a centre-left persuasion, and we are clearly in favour of capitalism, business, regulation, good regulation, as well as the government taxing adequately to provide for social services. So, let's just remind ourselves of social democratic beliefs. Social democracy. We'll read a brief introduction. We're not going to read all of this. Right? This is a lot. Social democracy is a broad centre-left social, economic and political ideology within the wider socialist movement that supports political and economic democracy and a gradualist, reformist and democratic approach towards achieving social equality. There's a weird sound in my voice. There's a strange whistle going on in my throat. Oh, I can hear it. Anyway. In modern practice, social democracy has taken the form of predominantly capitalist yet robust welfare state, with policies promoting social justice, market regulation, and a more equitable distribution of income. These are the things we should be ascribing to or working towards. Social democracy maintains a commitment to representative and participatory democracy. Common aims include curbing inequality, eliminating the oppression of underprivileged groups, eradicating poverty, and upholding universally accessible public services such as childcare, education, elderly care, healthcare, and workers' compensation. Economically, it supports income redistribution and regulating the economy in the public interest. Social democracy has a strong, long-standing connection with trade unions and the broader labour movement. It is supportive of measures to foster greater democratic decision-making in the economic sphere, including collective bargaining and co-determination of rights for workers. The history of social democracy stretches back to the 19th century labour movement, originally a catch-all term for socialists of varying tendencies after the Russian Revolution. It came to refer to reformist socialists who were strategically opposed to revolution, as well as the authoritarianism of the Soviet model. Nonetheless, the eventual abolition of capitalism was still being upheld as an important end goal during this time. However, by the 1990s, social democrats had embraced mixed economies, with a predominance of private property, and promoted the regulation of capitalism over its replacement, with a qualitatively different socialist economic system. Since that time, social democracy has been associated with Keynesian economics, the Nordic model, and welfare states. Social democracy has been described as the most common form of Western or modern socialism, as well as the reformist wing of democratic socialism. Now, democratic socialism is not where we need to be. That is too far down the line. And I would argue that we do not we are not using social democracy as a stepping stone to democratic socialism. The buck stops at social democracy. Amongst social democrats, attitudes towards socialism vary. Some retain socialism as a long-term goal, with social democracy being a political and economic democracy supporting a gradualist, reformist, and democratic approach towards achieving socialism. Others view it as an ethical ideal to guide reforms within capitalism. While both social democracy and democratic socialism once referred to movements seeking to achieve socialism, modern social democracies retain a capitalist system, whereas democratic socialists continue to advocate for its abolition. Nevertheless, the distinction remains blurred in colloquial settings, and the two terms are commonly used synonymously, but erroneously. Synonymously. The third way is an offshoot of social democracy which aims to fuse economic liberalism with social democratic economic policies and centre-left social policies. It is a reconceptualization of social democracy developed in the 90s and embraced by some social democratic parties, with some political scientists and analysts characterizing the third way as an effectively neoliberal movement. My God. So third way, it's a very American idea by the looks of things. So we've got Clinton, Tony Blair, Jean Chrétien, and Gerhard Schroeder. Super cool. Okay, now the reason why I'm starting to try and what's my mental map and my mental goal? So the mental goal of this kind of thing that I'm doing is ultimately I want to have a broad understanding of the Australian political influences in the alternative media scene and get a sense for what is the public being sold in these areas, because there's obviously going to be a sense of right-wing slop, but there's also just a general sense of populism coursing through Australia at the moment. And I think if you listen to a lot of the politicians and political leaders around the world, they'll tell you that there's a bit of a worldwide phenomenon at the moment where social medias and YouTube and Twitch and all these kinds of places, they're really creating an environment that is lending itself to perpetuating populist ideas. So shit that sounds good on the surface or gives the listener a sense of righteousness, that what the person is saying is true and correct and is the way to fix everything, but probably lacks some of the undercurrents of, or the deeper understanding of, would it work? Why should we do it? Like the questions around what's the benefit and does it seek? And then ultimately I want to reframe that and bring it back to a center-left social democratic view of the world to understand, should we be doing this thing or not? Like, is this good policy? Is this good program? Now, I'm very early on in a political journey. I'm still having to read Wikipedias on shit, right? Like, I'm still trying to catch up. I don't even understand how to adequately analyze media that I'm watching through an appropriate lens. And I'm hoping that through more and more and more consumption, we can start to pick up some patterns and habits of media creators. We can start to understand motivations and get a sense for who and what they are, and be able to apply that lens more broadly. I'm not always going to get it right. I'm probably not always going to be very insightful. I'm not always going to have the most insightful commentary, especially early on. I know if you look back over my VOD history, I've got a lot of videos now, but I'm only doing this 2 hours a week, right? So this is the only time I get to try and consume. This is not content that I'm consuming at an alarming rate or with any frequency frequency on any serious volume. Like this is hard for me to watch, enjoyable, like on my own time as something to enjoy, because it's like cancer, man. It's poison to listen to this stuff, and you really have to be in the mood and the headspace to try and watch it with a critical eye. It takes a lot of effort, and you can't just have it in the background of your mind, poisoning your mind, not paying attention to it. It'll brainwash you. So during my time off, or when everyone listens to shit while they're working, right, or walking or running, I tend to inculcate my brain with glorious center left programming to try and make sure that I'm walking a more empathetic path in life, in terms of thinking about these core social democratic values of, here we go, what are we looking at? Social justice, capitalism, welfare state, market regulation, equitable distributions. Now, yes, so enough preamble. We've gotten the preamble out of the way. How about we mix up with a little bit of right wing and then a little bit of punter's politics? I would suggest I'm guessing he would call himself middle of the road, but I would guess he skews more left wing. So let's start ourselves with, this is insane, no fucking way, and then we get a little bit of insightful commentary from Isaac Butterfield about the Prime Minister. Cannot wait. Let's go.
I've been saying for years that you should not trust the media. In fact, anyone worth their weight will tell you to never trust the media. So it will not surprise you when I tell you that they are officially bought and paid for. This is not a conspiracy. This is literally the government paying the news providers to do their jobs. The government is right now paying 2,000 journalists at several of the major news providers in this country. 2,000 journalists at 7, at 9, at the Sydney Morning Herald, and 180 other newsrooms across the country. $74 million of taxpayers' money is going to these people, paid to these people just to do their jobs. That's how great their jobs are. That's how good they are at their jobs. They have to be fucking paid for by the government. It has to be publicly funded by the taxpayer. They're not making enough money by doing their jobs, so you and I have to pay for it. Sounds a bit...
Okay. First claim. Government paying for journalists. I'm curious what the actual mechanics of that is. This looks like it might be it. Journalism Assistance Fund. So it looks like people are talking about the $67 million journalism fund claim against Labor. Let's find out why they've done it. I'm sure we're going to find out. Let's have a look. So this is News Media Assistant Program. So this comes from infrastructure.gov.au. Department of Infrastructure, Transport, Regional Development, Communications, Sport and the Arts. So this falls within their wheelhouse. The News Media Assistance Program sets out a framework and measures to support public interest journalism and media diversity in Australia, recognising these are critical to a healthy democracy, social cohesion and informed citizens. Informed by public consultation, the Australian Government released the News Map Policy Framework in December 2024. The framework guides evidence-based and targeted government support that addresses ongoing pressures in the news sector while balancing the need to maintain the sector's independence. It outlines the key policy objectives to ensuring access, diversity, press freedom, quality, citizen engagement and representation in Australian news. So, social democracy. We are looking for policies promoting social justice and social cohesion. We're looking for policies that aim to curb inequality and eliminate the oppression of underprivileged groups. Okay. So, in my mind, we're ensuring access, diversity, press freedom, quality, and citizen engagement and representation in Australian news. The government is investing in a package of measures to preserve local news and support innovation and resilience for news organisations, including $99.1 million in grants for the news sector, $33 million over 3 years to support the financial stability of the Australian Associated Press, a mandated minimum commitment of $3 million per year for 2 years for regional newspaper advertising across the total Commonwealth media advertising spend. So they're not just directly supporting, they're actually trying to get something for their money back as well. They're getting advertising, but they're committing to some advertising spend. $10.5 million over 4 years to the Australian Communications and Media Authority to implement the Media Diversity Measurement Framework. So they're promoting cultural unity by ensuring media diversity. Development of Australia's first national media literacy strategy over the next 3 years. Okay, now we get into the meat and potatoes. Journalist Assistance Fund. The government announced and launched the Journalism Assistance Fund on the 21st of November 2025 as part of the News Map. The JAF is investing $67 million to support the sustainability of Australian news publishers by providing a proportion of the wages for journalists producing core news content that is distributed digitally. Under the JAF, successful guarantees are receiving $39,000 for each eligible full-time equivalent journalist they employ over the grant period. The JAF opened for applications, so this only goes through till 2028, conveniently, till the end of till the next election, right? When's the next election? Next was federal election. 2028. Convenient. The JAF opened for applications in 2025, closed in December, due to the program being fully subscribed. Grant opportunity guidelines were made available at business. Did I go there already? Did I click this already? Yeah, I did already. Okay. business.gov.au/JAF. All applications have now been assessed and 185 were found successful. All successful grantees are published on grants.gov.au. View grant awards. God, can I just search Jaff? What is it going to be? Journalism assistance? Grr. Assistamps, thank you. Nice spelling, dickhead. Journalism Assistance Fund. Cool, so there's a few here. Okay, Fairfax Media got $8 million. 8 million buckaroos. Holy shit. Okay, there's a few in the list here that now Fairfax Media. Okay, that one's going to be interesting. Full details, please. So this is the original opportunity, grant opportunity. Description. All right, so there's a News Innovation Fund as well. So, okay. The grants supported over 2,000 journalists across 93 regional, 23 culturally and linguistically diverse, 22 suburban and 2 First Nations news publishers, creating news content distributed online. Okay. So we now know what it is. Let's see what Mr. Butterfield has to say about it.
Bullshit, doesn't it? And you probably haven't heard about this. I wonder why. Has it got anything to do with these journalists not writing stories on the fact that their jobs have to be fucking subsidised by the government? Okay, so how does this work? November last year, the Albanese government here in Australia decided to launch something called the Journalism Assistance Fund. You fucking losers. The government literally hands these news providers thousands of dollars every single year, gives them a check for every full-time journalist they employ. Now, you may be forgiven for thinking, hang on a second, Isaac, we need journalists. Yeah, we probably do. But shouldn't their jobs depend on the fact that people want to listen to their publication, want to buy into their publication? They can sell ad space on their publication. Isn't that where the money should come from? Why are we publicly funding it? And do you not see?
Okay, let's see if we can answer some of these questions. Here we go.
But shouldn't their jobs depend on the fact that people want to listen to their publication, want to buy into their publication? They can sell ad space on their publication. Isn't that?
Shouldn't? Okay. What if, in a world, people don't? And we now lose the Australian voice because realistically, the only people that can create media at an affordable price for a corporation lives overseas. And so now you've offshored any of this media journalism to people in India, Isaac. Ooh, you're sending jobs overseas, and you now have foreigners writing about your news in your own country. Additionally, how the fuck is someone overseas going to be writing in a First Nations language or writing about First Nations people's issues, right? And how the fuck is that going to be profitable? But it does provide a service whereby people who are, if we come back to our social democracy here, people who are underprivileged are allowed to feel like they have a voice. And that's what helps them potentially build themselves up out of bad situations and engage and feel themselves engaged with the society around them. Now, we could argue not all of the grant funding is appropriate to appropriate people, like companies. Like, if I think about Fairfax Media Limited, do they need an assistance program? Maybe not, but it depends on which reporters they're applying it to. Like, it could be that they're using this to support regional newspapers or things like that, where actually, you know what, there isn't enough news or reporting going on out there, but it creates, someone needs to capture the stories and create the record, for historical record at the very least. Like, otherwise things will just happen out in the bush and no one will ever know. It'll be like a distant memory, dust in the wind. It'll be, it'll be whispered from ear to ear that perhaps people live beyond the Great Dividing Range, perhaps.
Where the money should come from? Why are we publicly funding it?
Why are we publicly funding it? Because the arts and journalism is an art form in its own real weird way, can be. It's cheaper to have someone else do it overseas. And so we actually need to incentivize Australians with Australian voices to write our articles about Australian news. And the reality is, people aren't consuming local news or small news outlets, even online. They just want to watch TikTok videos about fucking America or Israel, Palestine, or random shit. And so it's important that we support voices in our community that wouldn't otherwise have a voice. That's how there's potential there. If they're there writing, there's potential where what they write about could blow up. But if they're not able to write about these things, we may never hear about them. What if there's some incredible fraud or illegal immigrants that one of these journalists just so happens to write about? Then it becomes worth it, doesn't it, Isaac?
And do you not see the conflict of interest here? The government is paying their checks, giving them thousands and thousands of dollars. So when the government wants a positive story, won't the fucking journalists that they're paying for be given the first fucking phone call? For years.
That is accusations of absolute authoritarianism. That is like accusations of corruption. Now, this one I think we need to dig into, because it explicitly states in here that they're after independent press freedom, maintaining the whole goal of this is to maintain the sector's independence so that they can pay for journalists without having to rely on. Okay, well, that falls into another argument, right? The government's arguing, if I can fund journalism and then our local news press or small press doesn't need to rely on funding from billionaires or millionaires to keep the newspaper afloat. So the government's saying, here's cash, don't have to do anything for us, it's all about your independence. Whereas if I'm Gina Reinhardt and I come along and say, here's cash, you better fucking write positively about how awesome mining is and how shit green energy is. Who do you think's going to put more pressure on? The government or Gina Rinehart? I guarantee you Gina Rinehart wants a return on investment. Right. Let's read our next announcement. This is our announcement from the government. So this is from the minister. New funding to keep communities informed from the desk of the Honourable Anika Wells, MP. Where does she sit? Which seat does she hold? It'll know what I mean. Anika Wells, MP, federal member for Lily. Oh, Queensland. Very nice. Okay. So she would sit with the right wing of the Labor Party. So we know that we do know that Albo has staffed the ministerial cabinet with a lot of Labor right or unity, Labor unity, and I suspect he had to do that to try to win his seat. Yeah, here we go. Wells is a member of Queensland's Labor Right, and the party's rules on affirmative action meant blah, blah, blah. Yeah. So she's a member of the Labor Right, and so that was how Albo got his prime ministership. So Albo is Labor left, and to get the necessary votes to sit as prime minister, he's made a bunch of promises to Labor Right to put them into positions of power. She replaced retiring member Wayne Swan in March 2018. She won in 2019 in the federal election. Good on ya. So Wayne Swan, I did read out some of his foreword to a book the other day. So very much a social democrat in his own right and very eloquent. Okay, so from the desk of the Honourable Anika Wells, diverse and regional communities will get the news that matters to them through a $67 million investment from the Albanese government. Now open for applications, the new Journalism Assistance Fund will support Australian news outlets to keep journalists employed and produce news that informs and educates. More than $67 million will be delivered under the program, with successful applicants able to access up to $39,000 for each eligible full-time equivalent journalist they employ over the 3 financial years to June 2028. The new fund follows the successful $12 million Media Relief Fund, which helped fund more than 1,000 journalists across hundreds of regional, suburban, First Nations and multicultural news outlets across the country. This includes the Chinese Herald that publishes the Queensland Chinese Times in Sunnybank, Brisbane, where the Minister for Communications made today's announcement, who received more than $78,000 to help keep 7 journalists employed. As part of the News Media Assistance Program, the Journalism Assistance Fund is delivering on the Albanese government's commitment to promoting media diversity, public interest journalism, and building a strong and sustainable news and media sector in Australia. Okay, so not much there in the announcement. Let's have a look at who can qualify. So this is from the actual business.gov.au grant page. What do you get? The minimum grant amount is $39,000 over 3 years, and the maximum amount is $7.5 million over 3 years. Maximum amount? We just saw fucking Fairfax get $8 million. So I'm curious where that comes from. The grant amount per eligible journalist is $13,000 full-time equivalent per year, or $39,000 per eligible full-time equivalent journalist over 3 years. If the journalist is not employed full-time with the applicant, the grant amount requested should be based on a pro rata amount. Who is this for? Australian news publishers producing core news content that is distributed digitally. The Journalism Assistance Fund running over 3 years, blah, 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 about the program, key documents. Righto. Let's see what the grant eligibility, this is what I want. So this is from the actual grant website, Grant Connect. You can apply if you have an ABN, are registered for the GST, have an account with an Australian financial institution, are an entity that produces and publishes core news content that is distributed digitally, and be one of the following entities: Incorporated Australia, cooperative, partnership, blah, blah, blah. You can't apply if you are any organisation not included, blah. An organisation included on the National Redress Scheme, an employer of 100 or more employees that has not complied with Gender Equality Act, a newswire service, okay, yes, affiliated with a foreign government or political party, union, financial institution, NGO, political lobby group, etc. The content produced, yes, insolvent, foreign controlled, a trust, Commonwealth, state, territory, government, non-corporate Commonwealth entity. Okay, I need one more document to understand what the fuck is going on. Okay. Eligibility. Okay. You provide evidence that each journalist applied for under this program produces core news content under one of your entity's publications. Provide payroll details. Confirm you intend to keep that in. Okay. Okay, here we go. What the grant money can be used for. Eligible grant activities. To be eligible, the project must pay wages for the journalists who create core news content. Eligible activities must directly relate to the project and the maintenance of the number. Okay, core content core news content is content that reports, investigates, or explains issues or events that are relevant to engaging Australians in public debate and in informing democratic decision making. Current news or events of public significance for Australians at a local, regional, state, or national level. Activities that are not eligible include paying journalists producing core content for a print-only publication. Journalists that do not produce. The following are not considered to be core news: sponsored content, lifestyle, real estate, entertainment, opinion, and editorial. Okay. Keeping us informed, reporting, progress reports, compliance, conflicts of interest, normal stuff, privacy, FOIAs, righto. I don't see anywhere in here where it says that they have the ability to tell people what to write. Like, there's nothing in here that says, like, I don't, like, how would they stop you? Anyway. So far there's nothing in here that says that, like, this is just fear-mongering at this point. Don't take money from the government because they'll be able to tell you what to do. I don't think that's the case. Like, at no point does it say that they can do that. I guess if it's an op-ed, if it's opinion pieces, at that point you're not journalism anymore. And maybe that's what Isaac doesn't understand. Like, journalism, real journalism, isn't meant to be opinion pieces on whether the government's doing good thing or bad thing. It's just meant to be reporting on the facts, right? But because otherwise then you're falling into op-ed territory. How is it every time I watch one of these guys' videos, I get fucking 2 minutes into it and I have to spend 30 minutes actually reading about what's really going on? Okay, Maybe I'm just not. Maybe I should watch more and then do the reading, right? Fuck it, let's go.
All right, they've been talking about brown paper deals, under the table fucking deals with journos and all this type of shit to do the government's bidding. Well, it's not under the table anymore, is it? It's right there out in the open in this journalism fund. Fuck you. If you can't make money through your business, then your business is not good enough. And it seems like the entire Australian media industry just sprinted to get these handouts. They love them. 185 newsrooms and over 2,000 journos getting fed this cash. They are literally on the government's fucking payroll. Do you understand what that means? Let's go back to 2020, right? When the government was doing things that everybody disagrees with now.
Woo! I totally agreed with what the government did. So we would, yeah. I think government handled COVID incredibly well. So here's the COVID denial portion of the video. Thank you. And it's just such like a simplistic look at the world. It's like, oh, businesses need to be successful, otherwise they should go bankrupt. But it's like there's no way that there could be some social benefit to having people write about core Australian issues and then not realizing that without government funding, nobody would write about core Australian issues because no one gives a fuck. And it's not profitable. It just isn't. But we live in the country, so it benefits us that we have people writing about these things. Like, this is... But, you know, $67 million. Oh, geez, breaking the bank. $67 million over 3 years. Oh, no, we're all going to go poor. Fuck me.
We saw what happened with Fauci the other week. Everyone disagrees with this shit. And if you still agree with it and you're a fucking idiot, what are you doing here? Go away. I'll tell you what, this video...
Okay. I'll tell you why we agree with it. Because all you have to do is talk to... Anyway. All you have to do is talk to anyone that works in a hospital. And they will tell you that they were absolutely overrun with sick patients. More than the hospitals could handle. And if we had not responded in a way that we had, with isolation, masking, etc., huge vaccination rollouts, you'd have people dying in the streets, man. Like, they wouldn't even be able to die in a hospital with dignity. Like... This is just someone that just, like, this is just such a ridiculous look at the world. COVID live. People are still dying of COVID. Right? This is 10th of August. Total cases confirmed. 4 million cases in... So there's 12 million cases. So let's previous week. 12 million cases. This is COVID live. Who is? I don't even know who this is though. This could be some bullshit website. Like, this was a serious disease, right? COVID pandemic years. Yeah, the mortality rate increased with COVID. Anyway, what do you do, man? Like, it was a big deal. It just was. Like, anyone who thinks COVID wasn't a big deal is a fucking idiot. This is just how it is. It was novel. It was a novel virus that entered the system. And you can look back on it with rose-tinted glasses and think, oh, geez. See, it wasn't that bad, but you didn't get sick. You didn't lose loved ones, perhaps. And it's because we had vaccinations and social distancing, and it was allowed to mutate into something less virulent before infecting everyone. Like, there's no understanding of how viruses work from a comment like that. Just zero understanding of a germ theory of the world.
As a paid advertisement for MyHeritage. I recently partnered with them, and before we've all done that before, right? You see a lot of DNA matches that you can actually get.
So this is obviously the DNA from the... keeping in mind, our good mate here is a race realist. He might not understand what that means. He might not know what that means. But I guarantee you deep down, this man is a race realist. Culture. It's just something that white people have and that other people don't seem to have. I guarantee he feels that way in his heart of hearts.
Now, let me tell you this. I am talking about relatives that I've never even heard of. People I'm related to. I share DNA with. This is crazy stuff. And for anyone wondering, MyHeritage never sells or licenses your genetic DNA. Ladies and gents, this is really cool. Go and grab a DNA kit today and use the code Isaac.
That's what they all said back in the day, right?
19 to get the kit for $19. That's an incredible deal. And on top of that, you'll also get a 30 comments, ladies and gentlemen, in 2020. And, you know, to be fair, back to the video. So if the government decides they want to push something like they did in 2020, and, you know, to be fair, the media fucking fell in line anyway, but if they want to do it again, well, they're going to have to, because their jobs depend on it. They're going to lose their jobs. They're going to lose the money. The government's going to pull it if they don't fucking do it. So
there is nowhere that it says that. It doesn't say anywhere in the grant that the government would do that. You're just making shit up and lying. This is just a lie. This is just conspiracy theory fantasy.
You know what? That just goes to show you how important independent media is. Journalists, media on YouTube, on TikTok, on any single platform, whether it's Substack, whatever. That's why they are so important. And you should, if there is a journalist out there that you really enjoy, that you trust, that you think does a fantastic job, you should support them monetarily, even if it's a fucking $1 a month. In fact, for $1.49 a month, you can join this.
Better rake in those Russian oligarch dollars. And those Australian oligarch dollars. Better get that billionaire subsidies so that you can shill for fucking capital owners instead of being actually independent and allowed to be independent because the government's not asking you to do shit. But I guarantee you, a wealthy benefactor will ask you to do a whole bunch of shit.
Absolutely incredible. Anyway, I'm not a journo. I'm not doing hard-hitting stories, but at least I'm bringing these to you. This was publicly available. 9 Entertainment, the Sydney Morning Herald, The Age, 9 News, $16.1 million from 2 grants. Around 375 journalists that are at 9 right now are part funded by the government. What does that tell you? Are they going to scrutinise the government in the way that they should? Are they going to do their job? At Channel 7, 7 News,
100%. Like, it is open season for shitting on the Albanese government at the moment. It is wild. People are fucking tripping over themselves to shit on the Albanese government. They can't. It's the only thing in the news, man. If they're not shitting on the Albo, they're shitting on Pauline Hanson. It is the shit fest. It's the number one part-time shit on Labor.
The West Australian, $11.3 million. Star News Group, $5.9 million. Australian Community Media, $6.2 million. And don't get me fucking started on the ABC, which is completely funded by the government. Fuck them. And so, ladies and gentlemen...
Oh my God, what a retard take. An actual retard take. Okay, why is it a retard take? Because, get this or not, it's valuable for the government. Even if the government just has a mouth... the ABC is very much not a government mouthpiece, I can tell you this. But it's very much in the government's best interests to have broadcasting and publication that falls in line with the government's view, or at least the majority of people's views, right? That doesn't just have to be profitable, that can actually be creative or boring or things like that. This is like, where do you think culture comes from? Like, do you think culture just like materializes from TikTok videos, or materializes in the water and then steps out fully formed? This is culture is dynamic, and it's a melting pot of all these different influences. And without money, you can't create, like, you can't allow creatives to create and invent culture or perpetuate or develop it and make it nuanced and but grow and build and move and sway. And would you rather that actually Rupert Murdoch just owned all of the media and created all of the media and controlled what you saw? I would argue that being funded by the government, the ABC is probably one of the more independent factions going around. Now, do they do some shitty stuff and have some shitty like probably far left opinions? Potentially sometimes. Do they sometimes show dumb stuff like that stupid video on Race Around the World? Yeah, they make some shitty choices. But you know what? There's definitely a place for it in the cultural zeitgeist. Like, there needs to be a voice for people that you don't agree with. That's what a democracy is. Like, that's the whole point of this thing, that there's voices that you don't agree with. Just because you don't agree with it doesn't mean it shouldn't be a voice. Jesus.
Gentlemen, it should not shock you that I do not trust these pricks at fucking all. No way. No.
Yeah, I know. We know you don't trust them. We know you don't trust anything because you're a conspiracy theorist. You're conspiracy brained. You don't understand how the world works.
No fucking way. And nor should you, nor should anyone in your family. Fuck them to the moon. These people are grotesque. They are disgusting. They are scum of the earth. Fuck them. I know some people are like, you got to protect the media. They're really important. And yes, some journalists are very important. People who genuinely investigate shit, right? But not these people.
Like who? Like the Nick Shirleys of the world? The special ed journalists?
People. All they do, in my opinion, is just they do puff pieces for whoever's bought and paid for them. Fuck that shit. And for some...
Okay. That's... Okay. Let me go back to the grant opportunity. Ineligible activities, sponsored content, lifestyle, real estate, entertainment or celebrity news, opinion and editorial pieces. You cannot pay for a journalist doing puff pieces. It is not valid under this grant. So they're not even getting paid. Like, you're criticizing them about the type of shit that they write, but they're not allowed to pay journalists for that type of shit.
Reason we sit there and we listen to what they say like it is the gospel, like they are religion. We are their cult followers because we've been trained in a way to only listen to what they have to say. Because if someone who's independent sits up here on YouTube and spills whatever they believe in, well, we don't trust them, right? We don't trust them because how could they tell us the truth? How would they know? We seem to forget the people who are...
Wait, I'm actually waiting for you to tell me to verify anything with facts. Like, where are the facts? You're asking us to trust you, but you're not providing any facts. You're telling us that you don't trust them. And you're saying, they lied about COVID, but not really. No, they didn't. Like, where was the lie? There was a new novel virus. I'm willing to bet masks are actually effective. I'm willing to bet that they are actually fucking effective. All right, where are we? RACGP. What are you about? News GP is the RACGP's news hub designed to keep Australian GPs informed about the latest in general practice. Righto. So this is the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners. So this is a news website written for doctors, right? Managed by the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners, right? So this is, I'm pretty sure that's what that is. Let's just double check that I am, in fact, the Royal Australian College of General Practitioners. So this is the governing body for general practitioners. With face masks now so this is from 5th of January 2021. So this is around, still within COVID. With face masks now mandatory in multiple settings, research shows they are highly effective at reducing spread of respiratory droplets. Opinions on wearing a face mask to help stop the spread of coronavirus, to put it mildly, vary across a wide spectrum. The least we can do, I have no issues, there's limited data, I would rather be a human than a slave. With face masks now mandatory in multiple settings in New South Wales and Victoria, proof they work in New South Wales, proof they work in helping stop the spread is vital. Fortunately, new research has confirmed their efficacy, finding face masks reduce the risk of spreading large COVID-linked droplets when speaking or coughing by up to 99.9%. As these droplets are likely to be the main driver of the COVID-2 transmission, our data suggests that the wearing of masks can substantially reduce the probability of an infected person transmitting the virus. The study, recently published in Royal Society Open Scientist, measured droplets spread by people coughing and speaking with and without surgical or handmade cotton face masks. Researchers estimate a person standing 2 meters from someone coughing without a mask is exposed to more than 10,000 times more respiratory droplets than from someone standing half a meter away wearing a basic single-layer mask. The impact on aerosol transmission was not tested. The simple message from our research is that face masks work, researcher Professor Paul Digard said. See, now the reason why face masks weren't working is because no cunt was actually wearing them properly. Motherfuckers were half wearing them or moving them or, pulling them off the cough because, I don't like coughing into it. Like, masks only work if you fucking wear them. The simple message from our research is that face masks work, okay? These experiments demonstrate that both surgical and simple handmade masks, such as single-layer cotton masks, can suppress the risk of direct person-to-person virus transmission through large droplet deposition. Assuming that SARS-CoV-2 virus transmission through aerosol is small compared to through large droplets, these results suggest that physical distancing can be reduced with the use of face coverings. So this one's Dr. Michael Smith, not convinced. Anyway, so it did not fully eliminate the ability for the COVID-2 virus to move through a mask, right? In what they would call an aerosolized way. But it did reduce spread by capturing 99.9% of large droplets of liquid that you would cough, right? And so if I'm getting coughed at, would I rather get aerosolized and droplets or just aerosolized? I think I know which one I would prefer. Well, we only got halfway and already it's gone from, did you know the government is going to control journalists by paying them money? And did you know that journalists are shit and should be able to make money on their own? And did you know that the government was responsible for lies about COVID, and now this is just setting you up so they can lie to you even more? This is just conspiracy brain. This is nothing more than just broken conspiracy brain. All right. Good times. Love you, Isaac. You're always a good fun, mate. Absolutely fucking hilarious. Goodbye. Farewell.